as a law enforcement agency, not just PDEA, but any law enforcement agency for that matter, the police. Because I'm personally very disturbed by the fact that it does not appear that the two are working together in the fight against dangerous drugs. The Office of Attorney General in the United States is the counterpart of the Office of the Secretary of Justice in the Philippines. Is that correct, Secretary?
Correct, Your Honor.
And as a young man, I remember Robert Kennedy, one of the most famous attorneys general in the history of the United States. He was Attorney General when his brother was the President of the United States. And I remember him as a very proactive Attorney General, running after organized crime. He was not simply waiting for law enforcement agencies to give him the evidences to run after organized crime. It gave the impression to me that made him very famous. It gave him his own stature, not just as a candidate, but his own stature as a crime fighter, that he was very proactive. And that's precisely what I would like to think the Department of Justice should be, the prosecutors should be. But in yesterday's hearing, the opposite appears to be true, that they simply would await evidences from PDEA and not take a proactive stance in strengthening the case submitted by the PDEA. So may I know from Secretary Gonzalez why there appears to be a difference between Attorney General RFK and Secretary of Justice Gonzalez as represented by the Special Prosecution Task Force.
The rules. In the United States, the district attorneys can issue subpoena on their own. Even lawyers in the United States can issue subpoena for parties. That is one big difference. Because here, the prosecutors cannot be prosecutors, judges, and jury at the same time. If we will that is the reason why when cases come up which need case build-up, I always refer that to the NBI or to the police, but usually the NBI because that's my arm. I always refer that to the NBI. I rely on the findings of the NBI. Of course, I have my own intelligence group, but these are not as effective if you consider as the prestige, for example, of an investigation conducted by the NBI. That's the reason for this, Your Honor. We cannot, I'll give you one specific example, Your Honor. Lately, the President ordered me to take control of the legal department of the Bureau of Customs because cases that had been marshaled and filed by the lawyers of the Bureau of Customs were always dismissed. Invariably, they were dismissed in the Court of Tax Appeals, in the FTC, etc. One big case which was dismissed was the Luciutar case. Notwithstanding the fact that the Bureau of Internal Revenue report said that there were truckloads of evidence for that. So the President here ordered us to take over the legal department of Customs so that we will be able to assist the lawyers of Customs in marshalling their evidence. We can involve in holding seminars of Customs lawyers. This is what we can do with all other agencies, even with the PDEA.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the Secretary talked about rules. Are these rules covered by statutes or rules that are departmental in nature that can be amended?
These are covered in the rules of court.
So in this case, since this is an aid of legislation, is there anything that the Secretary of Justice would like to implement in order to make the prosecutors here in the Philippines more proactive so that we can strengthen the fight against criminality so that the Special Prosecution Task Force, or prosecutors for that matter, can have a stronger relationship with law enforcement agencies like PDEA.
I think what can be done here is
Mr. Chairman, may I request for silence?
Would you please?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think what I can suggest is for a law that will require agencies of the government which contain provisions on investigation and eventually filing cases. Because law enforcement agencies, for example, they have their own legal groups. But the results of their investigations are invariably referred to the Department of Justice. Because the law requires that prosecution is only within the Department of Justice. So maybe on this particular aspect, there can be a law that will consider that all agencies performing this function should coordinate with the Office of the Secretary of Justice on the preparations of pleadings, on the marshalling of evidence, on the rules, for example, on the rules of and regulations of 9165, on the evidence itself. I have been telling the police, when you have cases, when you raid, for example, when you raid, see to it that the inventory of the evidence is done on the spot. Do not bring the evidence in your office because that will be questioned already as tainted. Do the inventory of the evidence, especially money and other evidence that will be valuable for the prosecution. Do the inventory on the spot. That is the requirement. You have to have your, for example, in the police raids, they have to call the barangay captain or the other officials of the barangay to be witness, media to be witness, and then after they're through, the evidence that they gather must be inventoried there and placed in a container, or usually it is said to be the plastic container, and then that will be sealed and signed outside this bundle by the witnesses and the reading party. If this is not done, this is already a violation of the law. If you remember, Your Honor, no less than Secretary Jokno before was cheated by the Supreme Court in his Stonehill versus Jokno of the evidence which was the fruit of a poison tree. That's why we are careful of this. We don't want to be rebuffed by the Supreme Court.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I remember Congressman Roil Gonzalez he was Congressman at that time. During my second term as a member of the House of Representatives, we were conducting an inquiry in the case of Queting, illegal gambling. And I had the opportunity of interacting with the Department of Justice at that time in my capacity as chairman of the Committee on Public Order. I met with then Secretary Justice Gingona and presented to him a witness, possible witness, that went through the screening by the Department of Justice. And in the course of that dialogue with Secretary Gingona, I don't know if the rules have been changed since that time. I don't know if the rules have been changed since that time. Then Secretary Gingona gave me the impression that he was taking a very proactive role in gathering evidences against illegal gambling syndicates. That is the kind of role, Mr. Chairman, that we would like the Department of Justice to take. A very proactive stance instead of simply depending on the law enforcement agencies, because the prosecutors are the ones who are more competent in making sure that we have tight cases, we have strong cases that are going to prosper in the courts, instead of simply passively waiting for evidences to come from PDEA, for example, and end up with a weak case that will be defeated in the courts, Mr. Chairman.